The human tendency to construct myths and narratives about perceived outsiders has been a potent tool for shaping societal structures, defining hierarchies, and maintaining power. Among the most enduring and damaging of these narratives is the myth of the half-blood or mixed-race individual as a cursed being, an idea that emerges from a blend of fear, ignorance, and the human need to classify and categorize. This myth reflects a deeply ingrained discomfort with blurred boundaries, a fear of hybridity that challenges the simplicity of binary identities. By exploring the historical roots of this fear, its manifestations in different societies, and its implications for individuals, we uncover the destructive power of such myths and the resilience of those who navigate life as living embodiments of cultural convergence. The fear of mixed-race identities is neither new nor confined to one culture. In many societies, the concept of racial purity has been elevated to a sacred ideal, tied to notions of superiority, morality, and divine favor. In these frameworks, the mixing of races was often seen as a transgression against natural or divine order. Myths about the dangers or curses of racial hybridity were frequently constructed to discourage intermarriage and enforce societal hierarchies. These myths have ranged from accusations of physical deformities and mental instability to moral corruption and spiritual condemnation. Such narratives serve not only as a means of control, but also as a way of justifying exclusion and violence against mixed-race individuals. In colonial societies, where power dynamics were starkly racialized, these myths took on a particularly vicious edge. European empires, such as those of Spain, Portugal, and Britain, often enacted laws and social policies aimed at regulating the lives of mixed-race individuals, who were seen as a threat to the racial and social order. The mestizo, mulatto, and Creole populations of the Americas, for example, were frequently stigmatized and marginalized, occupying an ambiguous social position that left them vulnerable to both exploitation and rejection. The fear of racial mixing was often couched in pseudoscientific theories about the degeneration of the human species, theories that perpetuated the idea that mixed-race individuals were biologically and morally inferior. The myth of the cursed half-blood also found expression in religious and spiritual narratives. In some Christian traditions, mixed-race individuals were depicted as products of sin, their very existence a sign of divine disapproval. This idea was rooted in a misinterpretation of biblical passages that warned against the mingling of different peoples, passages that were often selectively invoked to serve the interests of racial segregationists. Similarly, in other cultural and religious contexts, mixed-race individuals were sometimes believed to carry the burden of ancestral sins, their identities seen as a mark of transgression that tainted not only themselves but also their descendants. This fear of mixed-race identities was further reinforced by literature and popular culture, which often portrayed mixed-race characters as tragic figures, doomed by their inability to fully belong to any community. In the 19th and early 20th centuries, novels and plays frequently depicted half-bloods as torn between two worlds, their dual heritage presented as a source of internal conflict and social ostracism. These portrayals reflected and perpetuated the societal belief that mixed-race individuals were inherently unstable, unable to reconcile their divided identities. The myth of the cursed half-blood was not confined to the past. It has persisted in modern times, albeit in more subtle forms. In contemporary society, mixed-race individuals often face stereotypes that cast them as exotic, ambiguous, or untrustworthy. These stereotypes, while less overtly hostile than those of earlier eras, still reflect an underlying discomfort with hybridity and the challenge it poses to rigid racial categories. Mixed-race individuals are frequently subjected to invasive questions about their identity, their loyalties, and their authenticity, as if their existence requires justification or explanation. At the heart of these myths is a fear of the unknown, a fear of what cannot be neatly categorized or controlled. Mixed-race identities disrupt the binary logic of race, which relies on clear distinctions and hierarchies. By existing in the spaces between, mixed-race individuals challenge the notion that identity must be singular and fixed. This challenge is deeply unsettling to those who derive their sense of self and power from rigid classifications, leading to the construction of myths that demonize and dehumanize those who embody hybridity. The consequences of these myths are profound and far-reaching. For mixed-race individuals, the experience of navigating a world shaped by these narratives can be deeply isolating and painful. Many face rejection from both sides of their heritage, forced to grapple with the expectation that they must choose one identity over the other. This pressure to conform to a singular identity often leads to a sense of alienation and a struggle to find acceptance and belonging. For society as a whole, the perpetuation of these myths undermines the potential for unity and understanding, reinforcing divisions and perpetuating inequality. Despite these challenges, mixed-race individuals have demonstrated remarkable resilience and creativity in forging their own identities and narratives. By embracing their hybridity, they have challenged the myths that seek to define them and have offered new ways of thinking about identity and belonging. In doing so, they have not only reclaimed their own humanity, but have also paved the way for a more inclusive and nuanced understanding of race and identity. The persistence of the myth of the cursed half-blood serves as a reminder of the power of fear and ignorance to shape our perceptions and interactions. It underscores the need for ongoing efforts to dismantle these myths and to create a society that values and celebrates diversity in all its forms. By confronting the roots of these narratives and the harm they have caused, we can begin to build a world that recognizes and affirms the humanity of all individuals, regardless of their heritage. In the end, the story of the half-blood as a cursed being is not just a story about race. It is a story about the human struggle to confront and overcome fear, to embrace complexity and contradiction, and to find unity in diversity. It is a story that challenges us to look beyond the myths and to see the beauty and strength in the spaces between.